In Search of the Mount Cleveland 5 is just a story about 5 young climbers that were buried and no one returned to tell what had happened. Jerry Kanzler, one of the 5, his brother Jim Kanzler, was on the search that was on the west face, and as it turned out, on their way down, they found the first piece of evidence, which was a pack just barely sticking out of the avalanche debris. I got very intrigued by this when I learned that they were missing. So it was kind of certainly a period of grief, but also a period of inspiration where it's like, wow, I just wanted to pick up where these guys left off and start climbing. When I was 15 years old, I knew I wanted to do the north face of Mount Cleveland. That was the big goal. That's what was out there for me. And I decided the best thing to do was to go with Jim Kanzler, who would have been on the expedition. The idea of the book was to kind of capture that lore. The rangers that were in on the search and rescue, they're all gone. They'd be in their 80s and 90s and most of them are gone. When you look at 5 young guys between 18 and 22, which is not unusual for climbers now, but putting it into the context that climbers were self-taught back in those days, these 5 guys are really ahead of their time. But they had this thing about climbing big mountains and big faces. The criticism for the Mount Cleveland 5 was that they were too young and they were too inexperienced. Of course, at 15, I thought that was baloney. They were really good climbers, and they had already done 4 winter ascents, or at least attempted 4 winter ascents prior to Mount Cleveland. My whole thing was to vindicate them that they weren't too young and they weren't too inexperienced. That segment of climbing history has been pretty well preserved. I think it was a good job, but I saw where our little nook here in Montana and our era in Montana wasn't very well preserved. And this little niche of Montana, so many climbers in Montana, Bozeman in particular is becoming such a hub. There's a gap in there, there's a piece of this puzzle that you guys have probably never seen before. And there were guys just like you, even younger than you, and their growing up was a little bit different. They didn't have rock gyms, they didn't learn how to belay inside. These are guys that learned how to belay with clothesline ropes outside, and yet they would point to big mountains in the backyard and go, let's go do that. Go ahead and let yourself be inspired by those that came before you. Stand on their shoulders and keep going.